Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He on? Going to St. Augustine, Florida.
I think, is he there now?
Yeah.
All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order. The time is 6 o'clock.
Right.
This item is approval of the agenda. Motion reads that the agenda for council meeting of Monday, February 5th, 2024 be approved as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Young, Councillor Britton. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 3 is declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest tonight? Seeing none, we're gonna move along. Okay, we have 2 presentations tonight. The first one is a presentation regarding the Eastern Ontario Firefighter Association Games. So we have Captain Velkamp and Chief Norton. Chief? Chief Firefighter will be presenting, so you guys have the floor.
Close quarters. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council, town staff, your worship. Thanks for allowing us to come on behalf of Prescott Fire Department. We're very excited. We've been offered and accepted the opportunity to host the EOFA, Eastern Ontario Firefighters Association Games. The games will run Friday, June 14th to Sunday, June 16th. In the town of Prescott at the Leo Boyden Community Center. So just a quick overview. So we just put together a little bit of information so that council, town staff, we've already briefly met once in discussion with them and that has started. But this is the 112 games. Prescott last hosted it in 2009. It is a very prestigious and honorable event for a lot of the local fire departments. It could range from anywhere from 10 to 12 departments will be participating. Augusta, Edwardsburg, Athens, Merrickville, so all the local ones, and still a few have to determine their entry. Each team consists of 10 to 18 firefighters. It's been very encouraging. There's actually some now female firefighters joining these teams, so it's a mix of both men and women on the teams. Races will be held at the Leo Boyden, and as well, a big part of this is camping. A lot of firefighters bring their families and make it an entire weekend event. So there will be camping offered, and discussions have been had already with the town and Fort Wellington in regards to property south of Highway 2. That's where they camped last time in 2009. And from what I heard, it was a really big success. So there's some good looking firefighters that actually won some trophies the last few years. So hopefully we can make 2024 another successful one. So just a quick schedule of the events. And again, this is just an overview so that council and town staff and the fire department are all on the same page. Actually, I did want to mention, I forgot to, these games are overseen by a sports committee through EFA. So the fire department does have to report to and follow certain items that they expect of us. So we don't have carte blanche in whatever we're doing. Fridays is kind of when a lot of setup. We'll look for some road closures, rival camping, track presentation. I do have a map on here that we'll go through in a little bit to show the track and where everything will head. There is a very important sports meeting on the Friday night. Use those terms loosely because sometimes it's a little boring, but representation from council and your worship will be encouraged that night. So don't make plans for Friday, June 14th. Saturday is the big day. So it runs. They'll be there setting up early on. The races, we're going to have an opening ceremonies. This will be the first time Prescott is introducing this. Teams are going to walk down the track for opening ceremonies. We have a coaches meeting. So the races are divided up into 2. I don't know if you guys were here in 2009 or never witnessed the races, but there's dry races and then there's wet races. Each team gets to put 1 or 2 teams in. We do a lunch break. The games end 3:30, 3:45, and then there'll be a supper break. Then there is a parade, which is really nice. All the fire departments are expected to march with trucks. Our proposed parade route this year is going to be from tennis courts up King Street to the rink, so it'll be a little different than our normal Christmas parade route. But it should showcase, downtown and some of the great things going on down there. And then there is a big dance afterwards. We do have Healing Ore secured for that. Tickets will go on sale to fire departments in advance, and then local community members are more than welcome to attend as well. And then Sunday is Father's Day, and we get to clean up our mess from the weekend. Campers will then obviously start to leave on the Sunday. So here's just a small map. We are hosting it, like I said, at Leo. That's where they hosted it in 2009. It was a really big success. Dibble Street will be the racetrack. Most of the races will go from the corner of Prince down to, there's that yellow house. Most of the races will end there. Dry races are just hose lengths, firefighters competing that way. When the wet races come in the afternoon, we'll actually need a water source, and there will be, we'll have a truck stationed here going off this hydrant. The wet races actually bring trucks into play, so utility trucks. They will actually compete. The race will end here, but our road closures we'll need them to be able to come up around Duke, down James, and then the lineup will be back here in Dibble. Anyways, that is just a quick brief. We have been in discussions with town already, and we'll make sure those road closures applications are completed as necessary.
One other one was, on Ben Conant, we closed it off at the entrance to the port. So from there to Dibble, we had that also barricaded off, so for booths and whatever else we were gonna set up then.
We will be approaching food vendors to come in for the weekend to service Saturday, all the families and everything going on, as well as the dance and stuff like that. And then south of Highway 2, like I said, is camping. So,
questions?
please,
How many firefighters will there be? Or
if
how
I
many?
was to range it, I'd say approximately 150 to. Don't think you'd get to 200, 150 to 175 approximately.
And how many different companies are coming?
Last year there was 9. We're hoping to get back up to 10 this year.
And so, sorry, I got lots of questions. Parking, can people coming to watch park at the fort or at the
They can park
Leo?
at the fort, they can park in the back of the Leo, and on the side streets, they're still open, but,
Okay.
but that, like Chris said, that footprint around there will be, Duke will still be open, coming up Russell and Duke and everything. It's just, we'll close it off at Duke and Dibble, so, we don't want traffic coming back against us, so.
Okay. Good. Any other questions? Councilor Bird?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. These races are unbelievable. People come out of the woodworks, you're talking about families and kids, and there's an estimated, how many people do you think? I mean, I was part of 2009 when my husband was on the fire department. Estimated just, what do you think? 5,000 people? 3,000 people?
I don't think it'd be that high land, just like
Yeah.
we have town citizens and families come in, you're right, and
Yep.
it's hard to kind of put a figure on it, but they can come in and go, and probably, at least 1,000,
Yeah.
I'm looking for a big turnout for the dance also, because obviously Healing Ore is a big name, so
Mhm.
we were very successful the last time we ran the dances, so, yeah, so.
Yeah.
It's hard to kind of judge, but yeah, sure, we could,
Mhm.
and this, as Chris said, we've been, had a meeting with Dana and Matthew and Nathan, And so we've incorporated the town even more, that where we didn't do it in 2009. We did some, but we want to try to pull people in. And now we have a downtown that's vibrant. So that's why we're, trying to pull and use the community. So.
That's good. Nice to have it back in Prescott.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was just one more quick one, and then if there's any other questions, we'll let you guys, because I think you have a busy agenda, but on behalf of the town, we would like to continue ongoing discussions with you guys. We are gonna look to apply for a community grant to help us with some of the costs in regards to Leo Boyman Community Center, et cetera. The road closures, like I mentioned, some equipment logistics leading up to it. Event promotion, anything we can help promote and you guys to do the same thing. Like I mentioned, your appearances on the Friday and Saturday night. And then we're all for as much as we can promote the town, downtown, uptown businesses and get them on board, whether it's through food specials, you name it. There will be a spouses night on the Friday that maybe we can incorporate some businesses in the community as well. So this is a joint effort in our eyes, and we want this successful not only for the fire department, but the entire town of Prescott.
One other thing we have is, so we run a 50-50 draw. So tickets go out to all the different fire departments. So they're given so many tickets. Then we also do a booklet, which Chris is talking about with town business and area that we include and do a booklet for the UFA, the races. So it's another thing that brings communities in together all over.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. That sounds like a fun time, and keep the calendar open.
You want to end with a 30-second video of yours? Races in 2022. This was actually a first place finish. For the farmers. So this is an example of a wet race. Hydrants, breaking hose. It's a lot of fun. A lot of people get wet, soaked. Actually, background is so that truck would be going down Dibble, a hose coming into the truck bed. And then the truck will have to loop back around, so hoses can be loaded back on to line back up for races.
And with the chief here, we do not do that on a normal call. Only just on Saturday for safety.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. It's 4.2, are we doing? Are they online? Oh, okay. So item 4.2 is a presentation from the John Howard Society regarding coldest night of the year. Sponsorship request. So welcome, Robin Holmes from Connect Youth. You have the floor, Robin.
Thank you very much. I'm feeling a little self-conscious following the presentation about the games because I'm not nearly that exciting, but we'll see what I can do. So, first of all, I just wanted to thank everybody for allowing me to present tonight. I apologize I can't be there in person. I'm juggling some parental responsibilities with my kiddos and their recreation activities. Also, I apologize for any coughs and sniffles. I am a little bit sick right now. So before we get started. So for those of you who are not familiar with Connect Youth in the past, I just want to run through a very quick history of kind of how we got to be where we are today. I think it's really important to cover as our roots really began in Prescott. So Connect Youth was established in 2001 as the result of an unfortunate suicide of a young person from South Grenville High School. A concerned group of local citizens came together really in hopes of establishing a sort of coalition that would ensure that no young person ever felt that they had nowhere to turn again. So from that group established what would become Connect Youth. Our organization started out as being a single staffed organization based out of what we now refer to as the closet, or the tiny room off of the guidance department at South Grenville High School. And since then, we have grown rapidly, I think beyond what anyone ever expected us to become. What everybody wanted to ensure with Connect Youth is that while young people had somewhere to turn, they also had access to community services in areas such as mental health, addictions, education and employment, justice, whatever they needed, they had a way to access those supports. On top of that, young people were also provided with basic needs items such as food, clothing, and hygiene, transportation and accompaniment to appointment, and really a caring, trained adult that would provide them with some guidance and life skills required to transition into adulthood. To this day, that remains the foundation on which all of our other programs have developed. So from the core program, as we call it, which was the one established at South Grenville, there was an identified need for housing supports in the community for young people experiencing homelessness. So we established a short-term apartment unit for young people. Our first one, of course, was also in Prescott. And from that, the housing program also grew rapidly. So we're noticing a trend here. We initially started offering 21-day stays for young people experiencing or imminently at risk of homelessness. And during that 21-day stay, they would be provided with everything they need. The apartment would be provided free of charge. They would be provided with their basic needs items. They would be linked up with one of our housing caseworkers who would assist them with obtaining long-term housing, but also with the life skills required to maintain housing on their own. We see young people coming into our units that they don't know why you shouldn't put a toilet plunger on your kitchen counter. And while it may be laughable to us and seem trivial, a lot of the young people we see have come out of multiple generations of homelessness, and they've never been equipped with those skills required to live independently. So a rapid increase in the demand for services from our core program and our housing program led us in 2021, after 20 years of serving the community, to really look at what was next for Connect Youth. We knew at that point we were growing to the point that we needed some administrative backing to ensure sustainability of our programs. Our staff deserved some increased supports in terms of, health benefits and pension and things that would really allow us to recruit and retain skilled staff. So we had to look at how would we offer that as a small agency. The natural answer was for us to pursue a merger with a larger entity. And we really struggled with how we would do that to allow us to remain locally focused, as we are really dedicated to serving rural communities. So the board of directors at that time had some connections with different agencies. We started exploring things. And the one agency that really seemed to align with what Connect Youth was offering was ultimately the John Howard Society. At that time, the John Howard Society was only offering the bail program in Brockville, which, for those of you who are familiar with probation, it's a very similar model in terms of supervision and holding individuals accountable for court conditions that they're required to adhere to. Also linking them up with supports in the community and issuing breaches if an individual is not able to adhere to court-ordered conditions. The synergies between the two agencies, though, were that both agencies had a multitude of different levels of programming, from proactive to reactive, but we also very much operated from the navigation perspective, from client-driven services that were ultimately hinged on linking those individuals up with the community. So we started exploring a merger. At that time, I had previously been on the board of Connect Youth. I resigned from the board to step up as a staff person on the agency to fill a gap in a management role during COVID. That was intended to be a 4-month role, and it ended up being 2 years of pursuing a merger. And I can confidently say that the merger decision was the best thing that has ever happened. What happened was we began this merger in 2021, the end of 2021, and it wrapped up in 2023 in January. So it was the longest endeavor of my life. It was the biggest learning experience and the most rewarding. And we had staff and board involved from both agencies at every step of the way. We wanted to make sure that this was something that all of our staff felt good about, that our boards were confident in, and that would ultimately allow for Connect Youth to continue providing the same exceptional level of service that had become expected from our staff in the 20 years prior. One of the things that we get asked all the time is, why did you merge with a Kingston agency? And the reason that we merged with a Kingston agency is because it was so much more than that. It was one of the few agencies that allowed us to continue gearing our program towards Eastern Ontario, towards Leeds, Grenville, towards what was really needed in those communities without imposing on us a bigger agenda or something that was not something that Connect Youth was comfortable with. John Howard remained committed to having dedicated spots on the board of directors for Leeds and Grenville board members who wish to transfer, so that we would continue having the Leeds Grenville voice moving us forward. Now where we're at, our staff have pension eligibility, access to benefits, professional development opportunities, and more than they could have ever wished for before, which is ultimately what the goal of the Connect Youth Board was. And we also at John Howard, we have 13 offices, our affiliate offices across the province that we join forces with in terms of sharing resources. We have large conferences and staff resources, but we also have a provincial office that's geared towards policy and research and advocacy at various levels of government. So that's been really unique for us to bring that on board. So where are we now and why am I here? Right now, because we have brought Connect Youth under the umbrella of John Howard Society, we now have a broad spectrum of programming that continues to serve young people and adults in Leeds and Grenville. Our core program, which is the program that was initially established at South Grenville High School, remains in that school. We have now moved far beyond the walls of the tiny closet office off of the guidance room. We have our own dedicated office on the second floor with our own classroom space dedicated to our drop-in program. The drop-in program remains geared towards providing connections to community, but now the need for that program, the demand is far beyond what we can continue to provide without accessing additional funding. To give you a solid example, our core staff, Danielle, who many of you have met in the past, between April and December of 2023, she served just short of 13,000 meals in the core program at South Grenville. We have hundreds of students attending that program, and the need has been posed, or the question has been posed to us from the high school, how do you know that everybody who's going needs it? And our question back is always, how do we determine the need? Well, one student might need the meal, another student might need the social interaction, or one student might need the meal and would only get it if their friend attends with them. So we never plan to shut the door or to regulate who attends that program. We see benefit to all attending. And we are offering the recreational programming on Wednesdays and Thursdays at the Leo Boyven Center, which has been fantastic for us to be able to bring some young people in there after school to do some recreation and social activities a couple days of the week. The core program has expanded far beyond the walls of South Grenville. We are now serving every youth who requires our service in Leeds and Grenville. We can mobilize staff and provide service to individuals in Westport or Kemptville, Gananoque, wherever they call us from. We will make sure they are provided with the services that they request. We have our WAY program now, which is our Wellness Access for Youth program in Kemptville, very similar navigation program geared towards the hospital and health settings. We have a dedicated staff person, Dan, who has an office in Kemptville, designed to assist youth and families with navigating mental health resources in that community. Our youth housing program, which began in Prescott, continues, and we still have a unit in Prescott. We now operate 9 beds in 5 units throughout the counties of Leeds and Grenville. We have 3 beds that are dedicated to youth transitioning out of the child welfare system. And of course, because of COVID and because of everything that has happened with the housing system, we now extend our stays far beyond the 21 days that we originally offered young people. Typically, what we're seeing is a 4 to 5 month stay where they're engaged with our case managers, provided with life skills and connections, and then transitioned into a safe long-term unit. We remain very much in partnership with a multitude of community agencies, including Victim Services, Employment and Education Center, Probation Parole, Family and Children's Services, and a multitude of schools that refer to us on a daily basis. We also now have our justice involved housing worker, which was kind of a cornerstone of the merger with John Howard Society. That housing worker supports individuals who may have become homeless or may be at risk for further homelessness because of their involvement with the criminal justice system. We have a dedicated worker that facilitates transitions from custody from our local correctional institutions, as well as the other ones that feed our community. We have our bail supervision program, which is the initial John Howard program in Leeds and Grenville. It remains with 2 workers supervising individuals. And most recently, we added to our team our 2 outreach workers who are our kind of boots on the ground, as we say it, response to homelessness in Leeds and Grenville. They are visiting encampments. They are providing the initial contact with homeless individuals, helping us kind of enumerate homelessness and provide the initial referrals to case management. We are very, very grateful to be to have ongoing funding with United Way, who has been with us since inception, United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, Kemptville Hospital, Reaching Home through Employment and Social Development, Ministry of the Attorney General, municipalities, and private donors. So where do we go from here? We continue to pursue diversification of all of our revenue streams to make sure that all of our programs are sustainable. We very much want to be the agency that is a continued access point for years, decades to come. And we are now at the point in our kind of life cycle of an agency where we are seeing children of our initial clients roll through our cycle, which is it's really gratifying to be able to see those people come through and access services and know that we're still here. We have a capital build on the go right now. That build is occurring in Brockville at 125 Stewart Boulevard, where our temporary office is. That build is going to bring together our staff from John Howard and Connect Youth in one office space, has space for 17 staff, and also has space in the back for 6 residential units for individuals experiencing homelessness. So it's a really unique build in that individuals in the back will have direct access to our offices. We have a dedicated boardroom and life skills programming space, as well as a large kitchen that we can really support individuals that have never lived independently before. And the event that is kind of beside my name on the agenda tonight coming up is our Coldest Night of the Year event. That event is being held on February 24th in Brockville on the same site as our current temporary office, as well as our capital build. It's being held at 125 Stewart Boulevard. That event, Coldest Night of the Year, it started out as a national event in Canada. Last year, it expanded into the US with 3 US locations participating. And it's designed to be a night where we, yes, of course, want to raise funds to support our programming, but more importantly, really want to raise awareness about the causes of homelessness and what individuals locally can do to really address homelessness in Leeds and Grenville. So that walk is being held from 4 to 7 p.m. on February 24th. Anybody who would like to come and walk is more than welcome. It is a family-friendly event. There will be lots of music and fun and really a good sense of community and some delicious warm food at the end of the walk. So what I am bringing to the town of Prescott is, of course, typically I've presented to municipalities in the past requesting monetary sponsorship. Of course, funds are fantastic. However, what we would really like to get out of this event is awareness about our programs, really some different support from the local municipalities. So while financial support is appreciated, the goal of this is so much bigger than that. If the town of Prescott is able to offer support to us for this event by way of even sharing our event on media platforms, sharing with your personal friends and family, registering a team of your own and gathering pledges, or simply attending to show your support, that means the world for us. We have a lot of projects ongoing that directly benefit from this event. All of the funds that we raise at Coldest Night of the Year stay in Leeds Grenville for our program. So that's really what's important to us is getting everybody involved. So that event is important, of course, but ultimately I wanted to give everybody at the town of Prescott an update on where we've been at, to really reiterate that the success that our agency has seen would not have been possible if it wasn't for the town of Prescott and South Grenville High School really supporting us 23 years ago now, when individuals saw a need for this type of service. And to really reassure everyone that despite us having merged with a much larger entity, that our programming here in Leeds Grenville remains focused on our communities here, and that we really focus on local solutions for local problems, and that's what we will continue to do, hopefully, for years to come. So thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, Robin. I'm going to open up the floor for questions. Any questions from council tonight?
Amazing.
Hey,
Just a-
no, Councilor Kirkby?
Not a question, but I've had some interaction with Danielle at Connect Youth, and I just think it's a great program that runs locally, you know, and the work that I've seen through them is it's good work, right? And the case that you referred to was one that I was familiar with back that many years ago. So it was good to see something come out of that, because a lot of other suicides had taken place over the years that didn't really have any outcome, but times had changed back then. So it's good work.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Well, thank you, Robin. We'll look at sharing that on social media and even maybe putting a team together if we're able to. But
That'd be wonderful.
it's a great cause. I might suggest too, if you'd like, there's a community grant that you could always apply for.
Absolutely.
For funding.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you, Robin.
Have a great night.
You too. All right, item 5 is delegations, and there are no delegations tonight. Item 6.1 is approval of council minutes. The motion here reads that the council minutes dated January 15th, 2024 be accepted as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor Kirkby, Councilor Campbell, thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. 7 is communication and petitions where there are no items. 8 is consent reports. Under consent reports, we have information package. There's a few items in the information package, and there's a staff report. So does anyone like to see anything taken out of the information package? Councilor Kirkby.
Yes, through you, Mayor Shankar. I'd like to see Prescott Russell, ammo policy, social and economic prosperity pulled out.
Okay.
I know Councillor Campbell's going to pull one out, so I'll leave that one for her. And then the other one is the city of Sarnia, the carbon tax.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Campbell?
Yeah, I'd like to pull Prince Edward counties. They are talking about the expanded lifespan of fire apparatus.
Oh, right, the 20-year thing. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Nope, seeing none. All right, so all items listed on our consent report section of the agenda, except for the 3 that we've pulled out, be accepted as presented. Can I get a mover on that? Councilor Kirkby, seconded by Councilor Burton. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Number 9 is committee reports. There are no committee reports. 10 is mayor's report. So I was just looking at my calendar there. Few things going on the last few weeks. We had Deputy Mayor Lockett and Councillor Young and I attended Roma, which is always a good event. There's 1,900 participants, so I think there's over 400 different municipalities that are usually there. And we took part in a couple of delegations for United Counties and for Augusta Township. So that was good, and there were some good presentations there. A lot of them we've seen before, but a lot of new ones and some good vendors and everything. So I'll let Councillor Young and Deputy Mayor Lockett discuss that further. There was a wastewater meeting that I had with Councillor Kirkby that went very well with Edwardsburg Cardinal, a PAC meeting that, was handing out some CIP money, which is great to see for the downtown. I went 3 times to your place of business this weekend for the Special Olympic donuts. They were delicious. So was nice to see the community get right involved with that. And I've always said Prescott's a great town for stuff like that. Like, one lady was telling me, I think in cash donations from Sunday alone, they had $360, just cash donations, you know? And a lot of people were buying a dozen donuts at a time, so that was great. One last thing, there's a joint services committee meeting tomorrow, which will discuss budget. Right now, they're sitting at plus 8.4% to us. That's our increase. So, you know, taxes they're being just pushed right down the line, right into our lap. So we've got a lot of work to do to try and keep our taxes low. I know that speaking with a mayor from a close town of ours, city of ours, is they're looking at 8% plus. So it's on the horizon. So we're working hard to try and do our best to keep our taxes low. So I'm going to go around. That's all I have. We'll go around the room. We'll start here, Deputy Mayor Lockett. Sorry.
Great, thank you. So, as Mayor Shankar said, we had the privilege to attend Roma. There was a big agenda. It was a heavy few days. We sort of split up so we could cover everything. But I came away feeling we're so fortunate for where we live and what we have compared to some of the municipalities in the north that are, they're still dealing with everything we're dealing with, like mental health and physician recruitments and housing situations. And as Robin said, the youth, but theirs is so much more complicated because it's like 800 kilometers between your house and your physician. And so it really was a bit of an eye opener for us. But it was very good. All cabinet ministers were there. They had a lot of questions from the floor, a lot of good questions. Wasn't always the answer everybody wanted to hear, but they answered them as best they could. So we did that. I also had a BIA meeting on February the 1st where we did discuss the budget and the annual general meeting. And Councillor Kirkby and Campbell and myself had a community grant meeting, which we'll hear more about later, I think. So that was it for me.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lockett. Councillor McConnell.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Shankar. I was muted, I guess, but I haven't been taking in any meetings because I'm not in Prescott. I'm in Florida and enjoying the weather down here. It's not burning hot, but there is no snow, which I'm quite thankful for. Anyway, I appreciate the rest of you taking in the events that you're taking in and the meetings that you're taking in. And I'll be back on the 13th of February. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McConnell. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. Planning Advisory Committee, which you mentioned briefly, Mayor Shankar and Councillor Burt, we were there. So we approved $130,950 in grants and $415,000 in loans, 6 separate CIP applications. So that was really exciting. Another thing, the pop-up food truck applications are ready now that you can apply up until February 28th. And the lighthouse has been awarded to River Vibes Picnic, and they're going to kind of host with Once at 426. The BIA AGM is tentatively slated for March 26th. The poutine feast is going to be July 18th to the 21st. And International Women's Day is coming up in Campbell in March, so keep an eye out for that. That's all for me.
Thank you. Is that where Nicole is speaking?
Yeah.
So one of
I
our,
think it's March the 7th.
Nicole Hudson.
Yeah.
From Katarina's. She's a guest speaker at that. So that'll be good. Councillor Burton.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I too attended the community improvement meeting, and it was wonderful. 6 applications, like you said, and some good news stories. out of that meeting. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Councilor Burton. Councilor Campbell.
Thank you. I attended the Emergency Management Committee meeting, fire, on February 2nd. Prescott has met compliance with all the training and programming and exercises that we have to do. And thanks to Tracy Day, who puts in a lot of work to get that all under control in terms of applying for that. We're talking about basic emergency management training, second half of this year. We'll probably run it, break it up over 4 evenings rather than having it solid days, and we're going to share it with Augusta and Edwardsburg Cardinal potentially. We talked about our annual exercise, so there were ideas coming out of that. We're doing public awareness and education for 2024. Emergency Preparedness Week is May 5th to 11th. They're going to have a drop-in day at Fire Hall to see different safety agencies. And we talked about solar eclipse on Monday, April 8th, again for public awareness and education. And our next meeting for that is April 5th. And I will be attending a fire admin meeting tomorrow night.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Kirkby.
Yep, through you, Mayor Shankar. So I attended the community grants meeting and wastewater, and I stood Mayor Shankar up Sunday at Tim Hortons. I went early. I miscommunicated the time and guess I didn't wait long enough. I was off to the dog park. The dog couldn't wait. But some of the highlights for operations, the snow removal, right? Snowbank removal along King and Dibble, Edward, and then all the hills pretty much throughout the town. We had a water main break over on Henry and Center. So that was fixed in record time with the conditions they were facing. There's a little bit of gravel there people might notice, but that'll get patched up. The gutters have been installed at the ACC, so no more dripping down on people, which is nice. And it actually, it'll alleviate the ice freezing up there on that part when it drips down and then gets cold. Other than that, I don't have much. The one thing I will call out, it was nice to see lots of activities for the PA Day. At the ACC, there was stick and puck, there was public skating, and the feedback on the track at the ACC has been nothing but positive. Lots of feedback on people going there, enjoying it, using the elevator, the seniors and stuff. So it's a great option to have. And just to note this, and I know Mayor Shankar plays pickleball at the Leo, but the crowd down there continues to grow, and it's a great success for Prescott. As much as I would personally hate to say that I always wanted to play hockey in the Leo, we gained a space and it's really being used to its potential. So it's good.
It really is. I mean, there's sometimes 50 people there to play at night, so it's pretty popular.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kirkby. On Councilor Campbell's point there, not everyone knows we got that solar eclipse coming April 8th. It's going to be mid-afternoon, I think 3 o'clock or so. I know it's a PA day for kids, so I don't think we have anything scheduled where I know part of the emergency preparedness, we were talking with the police and the fire about how we're going to handle, like, the reports are what 250,000 people are going to migrate to the area. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean this area. It could be Kingston. I know Brockville is getting special glasses. I know we're looking into getting some glasses because you don't look at the sun during a solar eclipse. So just a public awareness announcement there for everyone, and look forward to that. That should be quite something. I don't know what to expect, but it should be interesting. Hopefully it's a nice day. It's not cloudy anyway.
Clouds.
All right, very good. Okay, 12.1 is staff report 07-2024, surplus land designation public feedback. This report is from our CAO treasurer, Matthew Armstrong, for information only. Matthew, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So with this, a lot of the public feedback received that came to my email, which was as per the instructions, was included in this report. The petition from Save the Park was received on January 26th. There's an electronic version, which is about 296 names, and a written one with 144 for a total of 440. We broke down from Prescott versus not Prescott. So 275 from Prescott and 165 not. And then just as we were going through, found about 32 duplicates. That from Prescott. We did want to clarify that we reviewed the parcel register from the land registry office from the province, as well as the agreement for the sale of property from between the school board and the town. And no stipulations were noted for restrictions on the title, or that it could only be used as public property for public use going forward. So that's kind of the nature of the report. I included all of the surplus land notice as well as all the emails received in the petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Any questions for Mr. Armstrong tonight? Councillor Kirkby?
Yeah, the one for Mr. Armstrong is, I noticed that a lot of the folks on the signatures there, they only put a postal code, which I know some of them are outside of Prescott. Because Prescott shares the same postal code with neighboring Augusta, there could be, is it possible there could be further signatures on there that aren't actually Prescott residents?
It is possible. There was no way to confirm that because the only information we had was name, postal code, and city or town.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kirkby. Any other questions? Okay. So we're going to discuss that in camera a little bit later. All right. Information. 12.2 is staff report 08/2024, community grant working group recommendations. This report is from CAO Treasurer Matthew Armstrong. The recommendation reads that council directs staff to incorporate the changes to the community grant program as outlined in staff report 08/2024 and open intake number 1 on Wednesday, February 7th, 2024 for applications. Can I have a mover and seconder for discussion? Councillor Kirkby, Deputy Mayor Lockett. Mr. Armstrong, you have the floor.
Mr. Mayor. So the community working or community grant working group met on January 31st. That included Councillor Lockett, Councillor Kirkby, and Councillor Campbell. So talking through, what changes we could make. One was that traditionally we've changed the working group each year. And so for the sake of consistency, it was recommended that perhaps we just go with one group for the term of council. And then if any particular member doesn't wish to continue on that group, they can indicate that and find a replacement. Also, at the same time, that just a regular review once per term of council of the overall program would be recommended as well. So we talked about the timing of intakes, and this year was a little bit later because we wanted to do the review, but going forward, opening it in mid-November, closing it in mid-December, allowing each of the working group members to review that over kind of the Christmas break and in early January. We can meet in January and then bring the recommendations to the first council meeting in February. So next year, it would be this meeting where we would be bringing the recommendations. And then opening the second intake in mid-May, closing it in mid-June, and being able to bring to the meeting of August for the second intake decisions. Advertising it more broadly, and so making use of obviously the website and social media, but also newspapers and community bulletin boards to make sure that anyone, organizations out there are well aware of it. And then making sure that any kind donation requests, whether that's for town facilities, equipment, or staff time, are included as part of the application process. And even if there's no monetary value, then making sure, and they're just asking for in-kind requests, that be well detailed within the application itself. And finally, adding ineligible costs, administrative costs as ineligible was something that was recommended as well. So just wanted to make one point. The community grant pot of 58,000 has remained the same for quite a few years now, at least 6 or 7. And so while this year might be a difficult year in which to increase it, I think there was a willingness in wanting to take a look at it in future years to see how we could grow it. And then at the same time, if we're growing the pot and we're not using all of the pot, then being able to put it into a reserve fund that if something comes up in a future year, a large amount, or being able to perhaps bridge to increases in future years, then being able to draw on that for ebbs and flows on the overall program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Any questions for Mr. Armstrong on the community grant program? Councillor Young?
Just a comment, I was so happy to see that the intake has been moved up because it allows the groups to plan for their year. So that was really good to see.
Yeah, that's a good sign. Anyone else? No?
So just on the side, if they're approved, we'll release on Wednesday and this week, and then look to have them back towards the end of February and be able to make a decision by the second meeting in March.
Great. So they open up February 7th till the end of February? Okay. Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 12.3 is staff report 09-2024, the water tower logo design. This report is from Matthew Armstrong. The recommendation reads that council approve the water tower logo as presented in staff report 09-2024. Can I have a mover and a seconder for discussion? Councillor Young, Councillor Campbell, floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. So when we started this project, we talked a little bit with council about what the top of the tower could look like. So you have everything from simple names on the top of the tower. Our current tower is an example of that, to something slightly more elaborate. I believe Matt still has a copy of a tartan running through it. It's quite elaborate, and it took a lot of person hours to be able to hand paint that. And then you have things like Cornwall, which has a kind of a large base amount of colors, and then their logo incorporated. So during our initial conversation, the concept of a lighthouse was presented and brought up. And so we went back to a local artist that rendered that, and then we sent that to our landmark, who's doing the actual tower itself, and they priced it out to be, and it fits within the current allocation. So how it would currently look, based on what you have in front of you, is that the north side of the tower and the south side of the tower would have that logo looking on it with what looks like a lighthouse, the top of the lighthouse, and then on the east and west would be kind of just that white. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. I'm more than happy to take any feedback, and then we can try and work it out from there.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Any questions? Do you have a picture of the lighthouse for the audience? Anyway, as we were looking for that.
Is it on the agenda?
It's on the electronic, but any questions for Mr. Armstrong about this? Oh, there it is.
So when I was talking about the north and the south side, so you can see that the north, south side, and then there'd be white on the east and west.
So it would just be,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, Matthew. So it would just be white. We wouldn't carry on with the kind of the cross lines.
That's absolutely an option we could explore if you'd like to. I think the only combination or complication that we might end up is that when you start to create a 360-degree image, that you're going to have a problem with the light in the middle. Because if you're not looking at it at the same time, otherwise if you're looking east and west, potentially you could see 3D of the physical lens. So you would see the one on the north side, the one on the south side, and then the one facing east and west. So that would be my only concern. But definitely, if we wanted to not go with the lens, the look of the lens on the side, and just continue with the crosshatch, then I think that could be achieved.
Thank you. That's why I ask these questions. No artist.
Matthew, is it closed in? Like what we see, is that glass or?
So
Painted?
it's just white paint. So this is all painted on the outside of the
Oh,
tower.
I see, okay.
And so you, from a distance, it will look three-dimensional. From up close, it'll look like it's painted on.
Okay, thank you.
Just the big ball, right?
Mhm.
Counselor Campbell?
I think we need the light image because otherwise it might look like a sugar bowl.
So it would still be on the north and south, but if you wanted to continue the cross section
Oh, I
on the
see.
east and west, then it's gonna look a little on the weird side.
Councilor McConnell.
Counselor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I think it's a great design. It certainly looks like a lighthouse. My only concern, though, is the size of Prescott. When you are on the river and look at our existing tank, Prescott, you can't miss it. When you're on the 401 and you look at our existing tank, you can't miss Prescott. I'm just concerned that the actual size of the word Prescott is not going to be visible from the river or be visible from the 401 because of the overall design. I think we've already encountered that type of thing in the same area. And what I'm referring to is the very nice sign that designates the Seymour Recreation Complex, where it's a beautiful sign, but from the corner you can't read the word Seymour, which I think is I find personally embarrassing. I would like to see possibly the bottom section moved up a little higher, and the word Prescott be more prominent. Thank you.
It's hard to tell if we can, I mean, it looks pretty big from the 401. I don't know if you're gonna see it from the river.
Yeah, so that part of the tower is, I think, about 100 feet up at that point.
Can't see that.
We might have a bit of a point.
This was done by Landmark.
No, so it was two. So the one that you see on the screen right now was done by the artist. This rendition down here is done by Landmark.
Are they the
Certainly make Prescott more
little
a little
bigger?
bolder, that sort of thing.
Can I make a suggestion?
Go ahead.
Can we maybe have just one, when it gets to this point, just have one letter, say, cut out of white vinyl or something, and affixed to the appropriate area where it would be, so from a distance we can see how well that one letter stands out before we go ahead and do the whole thing?
I'm not sure how, so all of this is done on the ground before we actually lift the tower or the pole up to the top of the tower. So that will be kind of the difficult part, is that this is painted before it goes up.
Maybe what we can do, Councillor McConnell, is we can get some, like, I can't see the measurements on the
I
side.
can't even.
Maybe if we get that from them, just so we have an idea.
Sure.
If it's 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, and then we can look at it further.
So to give you an idea, I think those letters would be about 10 feet tall.
Oh, they're 10 feet tall.
10 feet tall.
I think if they're 10 feet tall, Councillor McConnell, you'll see that from 401, no problem.
And the river.
The river, that's a little further away. But you'll be able to see it from most of Prescott.
To tell.
All right, any other questions on this? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you, carried. Okay, 12.4 staff report 10-2024, the River Road Transit Service Partnership. This report will be from Matthew Armstrong as well. Recommendation reads that council directs staff to renew the River Road Transit Service Partnership Agreement for the period of April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025. And that staff be directed to explore funding options that could support the purchase of a new bus and shelters and return with details for consideration. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Burton, Councilor Kirkby. Mr. Armstrong, you've got the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So the River Route Transit Partnership is a yearly agreement that is to be renewed by the all four partners on a yearly basis. And so that's why we're bringing it forward this evening. The intention is not to move forward with it, then we would need to let the other partners know by February 28th, and then it would cease to function on March 31st. So before you this evening, I provided some information in terms of the budget. We were pretty much right on budget where we expected to be because our ridership increased from 3,865 rides in 2022 to over 5,600 rides, just shy of 5,700 in 2023. We are generating more than we expected in terms of bus fares. That helps to decrease the amount that is required from the municipalities and which we're also getting provincial gas tax funding for. So even though that each of the municipalities are putting in $30,000 per year, any surplus that we have in any of those years, we're putting into a reserve so that we can start to build that up. So good news from the fact that we have a fairly substantial increase in ridership. That's our second full year of running. So nice to see that. We went from $43.20 per ride in 2022 down to $29.90 in 2023. When we created the 2024 budget, we assumed a 3% increase in ridership, no increase in fares or that sort of thing, and then put in amounts for fuel maintenance and salary increases. So again, that still fits within the $30,000 that we're putting aside each year into this and for each of the municipalities. And so no further amount would be required beyond that. So we did have a 47% increase in ridership 1 year over the next. And we're now for the year averaging 22.87 or 23 rides per day. You can see that we had actually a very busy month in September, October, November. Those are the three busiest months that we've had so far. And we're also starting to see that students are using it, both going to college as well as to secondary school. So nice to see that is really coming forward. So we were just a little bit lower than budget in terms of total costs, and but everything else was on track, and we're still under 30,000. We have been using a spare bus from the city of Brockville, and it was a spare bus towards the end of its useful life, and it continues to age as well as it's getting lots of kilometers every day going back and forth. So the need for a newer bus to support the transit service is something that we envisioned when we began this. There is a federal government program for capital that will cover 80% of rural transit capital costs, and that includes both the bus as well as shelters. So that's what we would try and get more information on, make sure that we qualify, and if we do, actually putting forward a recommendation to submit an application. But that's the report. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that might be.
Matthew, would that application have to be with all of us?
So with the federal ministry, or sorry, the provincial ministry of transportation, we're the lead applicant, and then our two co-applicants sign on as supporters. And so we would probably envision the same thing for the federal, is that we would be the lead applicant, and then Augustine and Elbersburg Cardinal would join on as supporters.
Do we have a ballpark of what a new bus would cost?
About 150 to 160,000, and cover 80% of that. So you're looking probably in the neighborhood of 30,000 after a new bus in terms of what we would have to cover.
Split three ways.
Correct. And then at the end of 2023, we'd be pretty close to that in the reserve fund to be able.
2020.
So last year, we would have at least half of that in the reserve fund to be able to support it.
So we might have enough in the year or so. Any questions for Matthew? Sorry, I kind of asked all my questions.
This isn't a question, but we have two members of our staff use it faithfully. One from Cardinal and one from Brockville, and they're both very happy to be able to keep their job because of it. And they say it's on time, it's clean, there's never been an issue, and they're just very grateful for it, so.
A 47% increase. That's fantastic, really. I kept seeing 3%. I'm like, 3%? That can't be right. Sorry, I think I had Councillor Burton, then Councillor Kirkby.
Thank you. Have we looked at adding more stops to the route? I know there is a gentleman that rides it, and it only stops at Giant Tiger, but he needs it to stop at Prismium around the corner. But unfortunately, the bus doesn't go down that way. So he has a 15-minute walk on the highway because they drop him off at the top of Giant Tiger. He's got to walk down, cross on the highway and back up.
So in any of our areas that are under 80 kilometers an hour, it's you can ask for a specific stop anywhere. So really, it's just a discussion with the bus driver, and but if we try and find one closer to him to make it a regular stop, and otherwise he can always ask the bus driver and just say, no, just need to be a little bit closer. And if we're already going by, then that's an easy fix.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stop on the way.
Yeah, I did mention that to him, but I'll mention it to him again and see.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Kirkby?
Just to pile on to Ruth's comments and then maybe onto Leanne's too. I live on Massey, so I drive by the one on Churchill. I've seen the ridership, the people waiting there go up. I think it's forward thinking by all three communities to maintain this bus and continue it. I've seen a transition of people that are there, it seems like it's kind of expanded to who's riding it. So it's a great thing in my opinion. The one thing I would say to Councillor Burton there is maybe that needs to be reinforced, or maybe we need to send something out to let the bus drivers know. Another thing though that I was thinking is, some of this bus is providing a service to some of these manufacturers and employers, the bigger ones, by the way, I don't know if they sponsor it, but maybe there's a tap in, do you know what I mean? To some of these bigger employers for this service to bring their workers to them.
So there's a couple, if I may, there's a couple things that we would like to look at in our next couple iterations. One is working with the manufacturers, because they say, we run 12-hour shifts, but we normally run 7 to 7. So if we could tack on another 2 hours in the evening, or even 4 hours, and run basically 5:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m., which is an addition of 33%. So costs will go up by 33%. But if we can get them to start to support that, then that would defray the additional costs to municipalities. So I think there's definitely some opportunities there, and we still have room in our MTO funding allotment that we could be able to expand the program and we not cap out on that funding. So I think there's definitely some options there. It's just a matter of we want to stabilize the service first, and then let's try to work towards growing it and meeting the needs of some of those manufacturers.
Through you, Mayor Shanker. The one thing I'll say, prior to my current job, I spent 18 years working at Procter & Gamble, is a lot of the factories up there, their shift changes are like a half an hour, maybe an hour difference, right? And let's be honest, right now it's an employee market, right? I think it would be wise if we have these discussions with some of these manufacturers is to try to sync their start and end times a little bit closer. You know what I mean? So it lines up for us to be able to provide the service and not have to spend a lot of money to extend our service. You know what I mean? Within that half an hour time frame, that we could provide the service, but not add a ton of cost to it. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Campbell? Then Councillor McConnell, I got you.
Through you, Mayor Schenker. Not to be discussed now, but we, as councillors, have been asked to provide some project ideas for future years. And the one I came up with was maybe more of an in-town bus service. $2 gets you to the arena, gets you to shopping, but certainly not for discussion now, but that's something that we could look at growing in future years.
Councillor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Schenker. Nothing's been mentioned about the city of Brockville going forward. And right now, it's not 3 municipalities, it's 4. The 4th being Brockville, and Brockville's contribution was the bus. And they provided the driver, of course, we've paid for it. I thought they also provided maintenance on the bus, but I see where that's been provided in the budget, so they didn't. But if we, 3 communities, pool our resources and buy a new bus, where does that leave this partnership? Where does that leave the city of Brockville? And are they now going to be looking at contributing financially? Because they won't be contributing the bus.
So, City of Brockville did it because they had a spare bus. Since then, they have, they're still waiting for their bus replacement. So any maintenance issues and timing have been difficult for them. I think they would continue to operate the service. We would just pay for the bus that is traveling the river route on a daily basis.
Somehow that doesn't seem quite fair. They contributed the bus. Now they're not contributing the bus. We're contributing the bus and paying, granted, only 20% for it. I think perhaps a little stiffer negotiation should go on there, because after all, this bus is taking people into Brockville.
Yeah, I think Brockville has been very clear that anything that they need to subsidize for the river route is not palatable.
Councillor Kirkby?
Through you, Mayor Shankar. Councillor McConnell, it's transporting people in multiple directions, right? Not just to Brockville. Some people are coming from Cardinal to Prescott. Some people are coming from Brockville to Prescott. It's making a connection from Cardinal to Brockville, right? But being offered by Cardinal, Edwardsburg, right? Prescott and Augusta, right? I think that's how I view it, you know, and we've just had Brockville providing the bus, which we kind of contracted that service from them.
I think Brockville's been a great partner in this by one, providing the bus, right? And providing the staff to run it. Now, we do subsidize that, but you know, they store the bus, they keep the bus clean, they do all that. So I think they've been good partners. That's 3 years now going, or yeah, since 2021. So I mean, I have no issues with the 3 communities taking care of the 20% of bus, especially if we've got it saved in reserves from money we've already budgeted towards it. So I think the city of Brockville have been very fair. Without them, this wouldn't be anywhere. We wouldn't have a bus. We couldn't afford to buy a bus and staff a bus either ourselves.
So if we have a bus, then we're still using their staff to drive it? Brockville staff? Oh.
All right, any other questions? So Matthew, do you need a direction about the funding options? Are you gonna look into that? Like, do you need us to say, yes, apply for that grant?
So we'll explore it further, bring back another report to explain exactly what the grant's all about and whether we want to move forward or not.
Okay. So I'm just gonna read the recommendation once again, that council directs staff to renew the River Route Transit Service Partnership Agreement for a period of April 1st to March 31st, 2025. and that staff be directed to explore funding options that could support the purchase of a new bus and shelters and return with details for consideration. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, item 12.5 is staff report 11-2024, the CIP reserve funding allocation. This report will be coming from Matthew Armstrong. Recommendation reads that council approve the transfer of $200,000 from the fiscal policy reserve to the CIP plan, CIP reserve to reinvest the proceeds of the sale of land on Development Drive. Mover and seconder for discussion. Well, Councillor Young, Councillor Burton. Mr. Armstrong, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So each year we contribute $25,000 to the community improvement plan reserve. Obviously, with the meeting that we just had being $130,000 in grants, $25,000 isn't going to cut it. So in previous years, several times since 2018, and the most recent being 2022 and 2023, we've topped up to that amount to reflect the increase in applications. In 2023, that was the start of our new community improvement plan, and so we expected an influx of applications, but certainly we've seen. So before you this evening is suggesting that we moved $200,000 from the fiscal policy reserve, and it was derived from the sale of 10 acres of surplus land just west of the OPP station on the north side of Development Drive, a total of which was sold for $250,000, and moving that to the planning or to the community planning reserve. That would give $225,000 for 2024, and with the applications that have already been approved, it would leave approximately $94,000 for the remainder of the year. So just wanted to kind of put that in front of council. If we don't top up the reserve, then the 6 that were approved, would it be held in advance until there's funding available?
I'm going to open it up for questions, but can I direct a question to Ms. Valentine on this? She's the expert. Dana, can you just for council's sake and maybe for the audience sake, just tell us what the economic impact of these CIP programs are for the town of Prescott? Like what this equates to total dollars.
If you'll just bear with me as this spreadsheet opens. So we have, that's not including these 6 recent applications. The total amount is now $30 million.
30 million.
That's been invested in the community as a result of the investment made by the municipality in this fund.
Okay.
Impressive.
That says it all right there. Any questions for Mr. Armstrong? Oh, Councilor McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor Shanker. A couple questions, if I may. First of all, I think this is a great program and it seems to be working very well. If we were to do this, Matthew, through you, Mayor Shanker, what would be left in the fiscal policy reserve?
So not including items that would affect it from 2023 because we haven't closed the books yet, but approximately $300,000 or $400,000.
I see. And the CIP program essentially gives away a bit of money and loans a heck of a lot more. As far as the repayment goes, how are we making out there? How much that the original idea was we loan it out, it comes back, same as a bank, we loan it out again. But obviously, until we have a reasonable amount coming back in, we've had to augment that with our own money from the fiscal policy reserve, what I believe is you're suggesting now. As far as the repayments go, how are we coming with there? What can you tell us roughly what is coming back in per year?
Certainly. So when you take a look at the ones that were issued in 2018, 2019, we're now getting those back. 2020 is also now starting. 21 and 22 Their projects are finishing up, so they'll start this year in 23. We'll be starting to collect in 24, 25. So things are moving along as we expect them to. We haven't had any issues with repayment, and we have just been using our surplus in cash to be able to support those. So it's not an expense and revenue. It's simply a matter of a draw on cash in that respect. So it's not anything that affects the bottom line.
So you can't really give us even a rough dollar figure on what's coming in per year?
So right now, I think we have the ones that are kind of outstanding and should be paid is approximately $20,000. With that being said, we've made some substantial increases in 2022 and 2023. So it's not that it's a revolving fund there. It's simply an amount that we pull from excess cash.
Well, given the fact that we only had 25 to give out, that would explain why we've only got 20 coming back in. But with the increased amounts, then of course they will increase as time goes on, which is the whole idea of the program. So, okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McConnell. Any other question? Councillor Kirkby?
Through you, Mayor Shankar. I see here we have, it's 139 or 130, 950 total grants. That's for what we're facing right now. And then 415,000 in loans. And that's just from the last meeting, right? My question is there a cap? Like, so we top this up, we top this fund up, right? And then we get a bunch more applicants that exceed what we have in that top up, then what? Because
I'll be back at council reviewing options as to, do you wish to top it up further, or do you wish to defer new applications until the following year?
Paula?
I do, through you, Mayor Shankar. I mean, we opened up the meeting talking about the tax increase that we're facing across Ontario, the municipalities, right? And, you know, the loans are loans, the grants, it's, by the way, 130,000 is a lot, but it's not a lot when you hear the 30 million data that comes back, right? But I just wonder, and I know maybe this is outside of this meeting today, if we think about, you know, if we're only putting 25,000 into it each year, do we have some kind of limit on applications like we would in the community grant process?
I think we've had some big ticket items, right? Obviously, the hotel's one. There was one last week that's projecting at 36 units. So, I mean, that's a big, I think it was a $6 million project.
Yes, it was. Last meeting.
So, you know, these are big things for Prescott. So it's happening. But yeah, I mean, we can.
So what I can suggest is that as some of these projects finish, we can come back and say, here is the impact of additional property taxes, and this is how we could reinvest some of those into the CIP program. We go in the future.
I think would be
a good way.
Would be very useful in that sense. Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions? I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 12.6, the staff report 12-2024, the CCTV request for proposal results. This is from our treasurer and CAO, Matthew Armstrong. The recommendation reads that council directs staff to award the CCTV request for proposal to Max Tech Security System as outlined in staff report 12-24. Before we discuss, can I just get a mover and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Lockett and Councillor Kirkby. Matthew, you got this?
Thank you very much. So back last year, we submitted an application to the Solicitor General of Ontario for CCTV, closed circuit television grant. It pays up to 50%, and and we put in a grant application for 100,000. So we met with the OPP, identified, in terms of the street crime unit, identified several areas that would certainly help them in terms of their investigative measure when an event does occur. And really one of the key things is that any system that we put in place, if we're just going to end up with fuzzy or grainy images, then that really doesn't help in solving crimes and addressing community safety. So the application was successful and we issued a request for proposal on November 23rd and submissions were received on January 24th. The locations that identified were King Street at Edward Street in all 4 directions, Edward Street at Victor Road in 3 directions, north, south, and towards Victor Road itself. Water Street at Edward Street in all 4 directions, Churchill Road at Boundary Street, all 4 directions, Henry Street at George Street, King Street at Center Street, both of those in all 4 directions, Edward Street at Park Street, and finally a location at King Street at Russell Street. So currently we have a camera on in that location. Unfortunately, it is far too far away and the communication with the camera doesn't allow for adequate quality of capture. So taking a look at all of those, we've received 3 bids, one from Ainger, one from WeCom or YCom, and one from Max Tech. 2 of them didn't include all the required bids documents, and so therefore they were disqualified. Max Tech, even based on just their solution, was the highest rated points for their proposal. So what they suggest is instead of installing 4 cameras at each intersection is that they would install one basically module, and it has 4 cameras within the module itself. And so that allows you to capture all of that data. All of the data is captured on the module or the camera housing itself. And then just every 10 to 15 seconds, a thumbnail is uploaded to a secure cloud portal. So that allows for easy kind of searching, that sort of thing. But all of the actual live video and stored video remains on the camera, unless you actually request that data. And at that point, each of the cameras has a cellular modem attached to it, and then it uploads the video itself. So that way it maintains that quality. It's not trying to transmit all of that data up into the cloud, and that's what our current system currently fails with. It's not even going to the cloud. It's just an over-the-air line of sight system, and it's painful to say the least. So in one of the pictures I did show, it's very rather indiscreet. It sits on the pole itself, sits up out of the way, and then is just used as passive. And I wanted to make it clear that no one is watching these cameras. It's only in if an event happens and we need to review that event, that's when we would pull the footage. But assuming somebody's looking and watching the cameras, that we certainly don't have the resources for it, nor was that ever the intention of this program. So we would be able to fit all of those locations under the application. It covered 50%. And then at the same time, we did discuss some other locations such as the marina and a few others throughout town. And I think the company that we're recommending has some great solutions that we could also build on. I would like to bring those back to council under a different project, because they wouldn't qualify for the CCTV, because this is focused on reducing and trying to avoid violent crime, that sort of thing. So those other things are lower tier things and don't qualify for the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Questions for Mr. Armstrong, Councillor Young and Councillor Campbell?
Thank you, Mayor Schenker. Matthew, for the licensing and data fees, is that through Max Tech or is that generic?
So it's through Max Tech. Part of it's for the online portal. And then the data fees is actually for all the cellular services to all those cameras. And if you go through them, so if we go through our own provider, there's usually a maximum amount of data you can upload. if you go through them, they have an agreement with the cellular phone provider that's unlimited data. So, and it always stays at a higher speed, as opposed to a lot of people, when they reach a certain data amount with their cell phone plan, it kicks down to a much slower speed. So it's certainly something that we looked at. When we took a look at the Ainger cable, they had a limit of 5 gigabytes per camera. And so that was going to limit it quite a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Campbell.
Through you, Mayor Shankar, I was just wondering where they're based, Max Tech, and if any other communities have used them, and have you got any kind of glowing references about them?
Yep. So I believe they're in Mississauga. Let me just confirm. And they have a fairly extensive number of clients in Ontario, which we were happy to see. Certainly that's an important part of what we look at and evaluate when we come across these. Just waiting for it to load.
Matthew, while that's loading, these locations were all discussed with the OPP, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So town of Blue Mountain had used them. Then Hastings County, I followed up with Hastings because they were using the exact same technology, same maker. They were very happy with both the CCTV cameras as well as their service from Max Tech. So that was quite important. They have an agreement with the Max Tech has an agreement with the provider, is that regardless of what went wrong with the camera, they'll send you a new one. So it's not that they're going to come out to diagnose it, then order a part and then wait for it. For the whole time of the warranty period for the 10 years, they just automatically ship out the camera, install it when they arrive, and then you're right back up into operation again. And again, that was important for us because operation being up and down, that's when you lose the integrity of the overall system. So City of Welland, they also private industry, noble trade. And so there's obviously quite a few projects that they had done in Ontario. Just highlighted a couple of them there, and we were impressed that they also gave us one that was most like the camera that we're going to use and products.
I wonder if it did work in a certain situation, that the image was clear enough, and did any, I can't imagine you'd know.
So I know Hastings was very happy with all of the ones that they're using. They also demonstrated one it just in Mississauga, and we got to watch the cars going by the camera, and it was just a demo camera. They set it up in a car, they put it to a cell modem, and then allowed us to see exactly what that looked like. It was just quite impressive. I was quite pleased with it. And I think the key is that because it's holding everything on the camera, it doesn't matter about your cellular service. So as long as it's capturing on the camera itself, that's where the quality is. But if it's not capturing on the camera and trying to push up to a server or to a cloud portal, then that's when you're going to get the degradation of the quality.
Okay.
So Matthew, if there was an accident or something that they were investigating, do the police come to us or does it go right to them, or?
So the police would come to us. We have a form they would fill out identifying exactly what they're looking for, that sort of thing. We would review the data, and if anything was applicable, then we would share it with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Just thinking about snow in Cape Breton. So if there's a huge snowstorm, do we have to brush these off, or do they go?
They're all down angled, so the arm is on top, it sits on the bottom in a lens, and so it shouldn't be covered by snow.
Okay, thanks.
Looks like it's about 15 feet off the ground.
Correct.
Hopefully don't get that much snow.
No, oh my goodness.
Last question, Councillor Kirk.
Through you, Mayor Shankar. Just reviewing some of these locations, the one that stands out to me is King Street in Russell, which I believe we all know there's been a couple incidents there, but it's not, to me, a high activity section compared to King and Van Coot. right across from where pop-ups are, and you've got the two roadways. I guess my question is, if we don't see a lot of action in one location, are they movable? And what kind of paperwork does that require?
Yep. So it's not too bad. The only thing that we would have to address is electrical. So that can run 1,000 to 1,500, depending on how much work needs to be done. But everything else is completely movable. You move it to the new location, and as long as you're able to hook it up to the power, and then you're good to go. And so they are working with a local contractor that the town uses on a regular basis, and they're used to what we do and how we do it, and it's not all dissimilar to how we install streetlights.
Councillor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. Unfortunately, I don't know how to work this split screen, so I don't have the report in front of me, but I can't remember when I was reading. Is there one for the corner of George and King or not?
Not George and King, it would be George and Henry. That was identified as a more issues happening at that location than at George and King.
And the other thing I would think there, that with the opening of Chuck's, that's and the fact that they empty onto both George and onto King, walking around that area quite a bit, that's gotten to be a very busy corner now, much more so than it was before. And I got to be honest with you, I voted in favor of this, but I'm kind of disappointed at the number of cameras that we're going to get for $100,000, and the fact that it's going to cost us. Again, I don't have the thing in front of me, but I think it was what, $14,000 a year to look after it. I would have thought for that kind of money there would have been more cameras, and I'm disappointed at the 14 grand a year for licensing, whatever you want to call it. I'm still in favor of it. I'm disappointed in those two things.
Just to clarify that, we're talking about a total of about 30 cameras. So even though it's only 8 locations, there's 4 cameras at each location, and that's giving you kind of that larger look, because otherwise, so just because they're in one head doesn't mean that it's only one camera. It's actually 4 and looking in 4 different directions. So that's where they were able to save money in the installation side, but still being able to capture all of those 4 directions. Otherwise, if we went with a different type of system, you put one on each pole, and that would get exceedingly expensive in terms of the installation cost.
Okay, last question again.
Through you, Mayor Shankar, I apologize. But I kind of agree with Councillor McConnell on this, that it seems like, I understand that the OPP and the town have identified these areas as the higher crime areas. And I agree with the Henry and George, but I could see George and King also being a hot spot. And I guess my question is, what leads to these locations? How many incidents? Because I'll be honest with you, and I'll just say it here, is I feel like the one at King Street in Russell, we're there for maybe a total of 3 incidents since we've put up the Pride crosswalk, versus the potential for accidents, fights and stuff like that. Now that we have Chuck's open, we have the Wing House open, we have a lot more traffic at King and George than, in my opinion, we do at King and Russell.
So with that in mind, there's still a little bit of room before I hit 100,000. So if you would like to max out the grant of the total of 50,000 coming from the government, I believe we can fit in King and George. But if you want to give staff direction to identify, King and George and see if we can fit it within 100,000 and give us approval to do that, then we can go ahead and add that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't want to increase the budget on it. I guess my question is, can we move one of these locations? Or that's not up as an option?
Before we do that, let me just ask a question. Henry and George, is that by OPP saying that's a good spot? So they have good reason for that? I've seen.
We're always running that stop sign.
I've seen the OPP there quite often myself.
Henry and George?
Yeah.
So we can,
I mean, if we have money in the budget.
so what I'm saying is right now we're only coming up to about 87 or 88,000. We can add another camera location, still fit within the 100,000. And you'd still have the flexibility that if you want to move Russell eventually, that you could do so.
And move it somewhere else?
Okay.
Is that something?
Could you keep them at 14,000 for the services? Yeah.
All right, so we need a little idea. Is that something you would like to do?
I personally would suggest that we add a camera at King and George. If we need to increase the budget of this here to do that and still be under the 100,000, I'm fine with that. My personal opinion is I would take the one from Russell and King and move it to King and George. Unless somebody can tell me that we've had a high rate of incidents there.
So we've had at least 3 incidents, 2 of which resulted in charges. And if we didn't have that footage, there would be no way to charge them.
And what was, through you, Mayor Shankar, what was the cost to repair the damage? Because that's really what it was, right? Was cost.
So each time that we do it is probably in the neighborhood of $600 to $700. And if we have to buy new paint, then we're looking much closer to the $1,500 mark.
And so when I think of these cameras, I think of assault, a car accident. You know what I mean? I think of kind of a higher crime. And trust me, I get what the crime is down there. But it's, to me, we're talking about a total of 3 times, let's just call it $2,000. You know what I mean?
So
It's also
a
an
year though, we do that 2 or 3, 4 times a year.
Okay.
So just because we don't cost the individuals doesn't mean that you probably have about 5 to 6 incidents a year.
So so with that being said, I would propose that we add a camera
At King and George.
at King and George.
Is that good with rest of council? Do we need to vote on that or just amend the motion?
I put an amendment to the main motion. Okay, so draft amendment could be to add that staff be directed to review the feasibility of adding a camera at the location of King and George Streets.
Yes.
I think that captured, yeah, okay. So only a mover, so you still need
I'll
a
move
seconder.
it.
if everyone else
Move it. A seconded. Councillor Young or Councillor?
Councillor McConnell.
Yes. All in favor? Against? Abstain?
Mhm.
Which one is it?
That's the thing.
Okay, so please repeat that. So now the amended motion, if you'd like me to read that, that's on the table, would read that council directs staff to award the CCTV request for proposal to Max Tech Security Systems as outlined in staff report 12/2024, and that staff be directed to review the feasibility of adding a camera to the location of King and George Street.
You need a mover and second?
We already had a mover, Councillor Lockett and Councillor Kirkby moved that original motion.
Okay. You're good? You're good with that one? All in favor? Against? Abstaining? Abstaining? Carried.
Now's the time to do it.
Thank you.
We're gonna make a change. It'll be cheaper now.
Half of it's paid for. Okay, 12.7 is staff report 13-2024, the EDOC replacement tender results. This is going to come from Mr. Nathan Richard. Recommendation reads that council approve the selection of Kehoe Marine Construction for the replacement of the EDOC for delivery in early May 2024 at an upset limit of $221,500 plus applicable taxes. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Campbell, seconded by Councillor Kirkby. Nate, Mr. Richard, you got the floor.
Thank you, through Mayor Shankar. So in November, we council directed staff to issue a request for tender to remove and replace the existing E-dock. We issued an RFT on January 12th and closed last Thursday on January 30th, and we did receive 3 bids. So the replacement program was established for all of the docks. Again, in coming years, so far we've done H, G, F, and the fuel dock, and then this is the E dock. So if you look at the total, just basic footage of the docks, the main docks, this would take us to over halfway of the replacement of the docks in the marina. There'd be about maybe 500 more linear feet of docks to replace in the coming years. So it does give us at least a little bit over the halfway point. So E-dock is one of the larger ones at 195 feet with 14 fingers, 26 boat slips, and the water and electrical services on 7 pedestals. The dock being replaced will be, the existing one will be disconnected and floated out of the marina for disposal, and then the new dock would be floated into the marina with the Kehoe Marine Construction. The delivery of the docks will be scheduled for early May to be installed and ready to go before the long weekend in May. We did move the distance between the last 2 fingers, so the last finger in the face dock, a couple extra feet to go from 25 feet to 29 feet to allow a little bit wider boat to come into the docks, as we've heard that larger boats are kind of floating around and looking for homes in marinas. The ground fault protection the codes have changed over the last couple of years, and so there will be ground fault protection at the pedestal. We'll have a GFI, and then it'll also be at the distribution panel as well. So all the wiring that could be in contact with water will have ground fault protection. So within the 3 tenders received, we've ranked them partly on price and partly on their kind of company references and their background. So we had Kehoe Marine come in at $221,000. JWK Utilities came in at $224,840, and then another bid that had alternate materials came in at $399,910. So the overall ranking did see Kehoe rise to the top to a total of 98 on the between the price and the company ranking. Price was ranked at 75%, and the company rank was 25% of this score. Portlow Marine submitted an alternate bid with aluminum frames, composite deck covering, and polyethylene and foam-filled flotation devices. But the price did come in at about 100% more than the traditional materials. JWK Utilities and Site Services did have competitive pricing. They're looking at the background. They do look like mainly an electrical contracting company. Looks like a strong company, but their main core business is electrical work. And of course, Kehoe Docks is their core business, and we've had success with them, and they do a lot of the docks on the St. Lawrence River. So they're familiar with the work, and we're comfortable with them, the work they've done in the past. So with that information, we because they were the lowest bid and they ranked highest in the section of the company profile, and they met the timeline, we're recommending them to be awarded this contract. Lay out of the dock, and then council could decide to choose one of the other tenders that were submitted instead of the one we're recommending. And on the financial side of it, the dock would be $221,000, and net HST would take it to $225,300. The draft budget for 2024 has an initial contribution of $79,435 to the Marine Reserve, and most of that would be used towards EDOC, and the remaining 150 would be from the Infrastructure Reserve, which has a contribution of $338,000 in the draft budget. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. Any discussion, questions for Mr. Richard? Oh, I almost called it. Yes, sir.
To you, Mayor Shanker, call me cheap, but I'm just wondering about the tie-offs that are on the current dock, E-dock, right? That are probably still in good shape. They're galvanized or stainless. I think they're rusted, right? So the tie-off, would we take them and keep them for future use somewhere?
Chains, like the
No, where the ropes tie off onto the boats. So most of them, I think, are almost 10-inch, are they not?
Oh, I see.
Cleats.
The cleats,
Yeah,
yeah.
the cleats, yeah. So they some of them are actually welded on. Yeah, that's a good point. So some of one of the things I will get the guys to do is go down, any of them that are able to come off with,
That we could reuse.
wrench. Yeah, we'll pull those up and keep them for future use.
I'm cheap, I apologize. I won't ask any more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Richard. That's awesome. Halfway there, right? You said halfway?
Yeah, we'll look at it.
That's good. 12.8 is the 2024 budget. Environmental, water, wastewater planning, economic development, and library overview. Matthew, you got a PowerPoint on this?
All right, so this evening we'll go through the timelines, library services, which is a whole door from the previous meeting, environmental services, planning and economic development, and water. So we're now at the February 5th mark, and our next meeting will be tackling revenue taxation as well as the project priority list, and that will occur on February 26th. So I'm going to hand it over to Ann Gillard, who is the CEO and Chief Librarian of the Prescott Library, and she can take us through the library part.
Hello, everyone. I'm just going to breeze through this quickly because it's already been a long meeting. I put information packages in all of your mailboxes last week. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at them, but I'm just going to do a brief overview. What I really want to sort of bring up, which I think is the main point, is the new members that we've had come to our library in the last almost 2 years. In the notes showing here, we show 519, but as of today, we're up to 526. So 887 of our total 1,542 members are active, which means they're regularly coming into the library. It's missing on the slide here, but we have further active members for Libby, which is significantly more, another 92. So if you combine those two numbers, we're actually doing very well with getting new people into the library. In order to get them into the library, we've had to offer more programming. So we're still running our Friday story time in conjunction with Early On. We've been keeping stats since November, and the last one, last Friday, we had 19 children plus a further 13 parents, grandparents. In the summer, we had it on the side yard, great turnout. Early On has approached us about starting another group. So we're going to do a preview in March, toddler to pre-kindergarten music time, and it'll be held up at the back here in the library. We've still kept our craft kits going. We lessened them last year to just 6 per year, and we had quite the uproar from our patrons. So we've put it back up to 1 a month. Here we had a great year at the end of 2023, and we've added a lot of programming to the library. We offered calligraphy, dot journaling, watercolor painting, acrylic painting, a Dungeons and Dragons group, tabletop Thursdays, Lego Club, the Morning Glory book group, fetal loss support meetings are being held here. The Prescott Page Turners, which is a book club, the Spoken Word, the Scribble Society, and the Seaway Horticultural Society all use our space. Just as a quick note, some of those programs are paid by the user, but we still incur the cost of having staff here while the program is going on. This year, the consortium that we belong to has celebrated in 2023, 3 million titles borrowed, and our library is going to make a significant investment into Libby for that. We bought 18 literacy kits this year in conjunction and with some advice of the local schools. So they should be cataloged, and we're just waiting for part of the order. They should be out by the end of March, we're hoping. The library is now open 51 hours a week and staffed by 3 of us and 1 dedicated volunteer. We did apply for and we received the May Court grant last year. And so I'm not sure if all of you have had a chance to pop in, but we updated our children's room, did a lot of painting, weeding, made a different info section, replaced the puppet theater and a reading canopy. When we talk about what kind of people come to our library, there's a great short answer, which is we have broader book choices, programming, up-to-date computers, inclusivity, a warmer, cool environment, and dedicated spaces. But the long answer is that libraries are filling a gap that is not being met in other aspects of society. Robin, at the beginning of this meeting, touched upon it as well. And we did have a collaboration with Danielle from Connect Youth previous to them joining the John Howard Society. But as of now, they haven't been able to invest the time back here in the library that we had them. There's really 3 great points. And I think these points really shine a light on why we're asking for such a drastic increase in our budget this year. And it's basically about social work that is being done within libraries. We definitely have examples of it being done here in our library, but in the information package, there's a great article from the Walrus, and what is happening here in our little town is happening all over North America in bigger libraries too. And I've had sort of a personal reminder of that as I'm finishing up my master's of library science. One of the courses that is mandatory is a course in social work. So it's what libraries have been used for previously, it's shifting. It's not really just about books. So I'm asking for extra money for staffing because I don't really want anyone working alone in the library. We would like to have 2 people on for each shift. As I said earlier, we've been running our library on 3 people. We've had 1 person off on long-term sick. And I think we really need 1 more person just to sort of even things out and lessen, the hours for everybody. So I just have 3 quick stories that I want to share with you about community outreach that's happened here in our library that possibly people aren't aware of. So in 2023, a longtime Prescottonian that I'm sure each of you would know or had run into at one time or another, excuse me, had been living in his car for the months of December, January, and February here on the streets of Prescott. We had such horrible snow last year, and he woke up, he was setting an alarm and waking himself up 2 or 3 times a night to move his car. After the death of his wife, he didn't receive enough money on his pension to be able to keep his home and therefore was evicted. He came to the library just to use the computer, had no idea how to use the computer. So after a conversation with him, excuse me, I'm sorry, I've got pneumonia, so I'm coughing and everything here. I'm sorry. After conversation with him, we were able to get some minutes for his cell phone. We set him up with an email address. We put him in touch with social services and local outreach programs. We researched grants and subsidies that he would be able to use to regain his independence. He found an apartment in Kempville, excuse me, and within a few short months, he donated $50 back into our library. Last summer, we had a homeless man here in town, again, prominent family that I'm sure people would recognize. He was attending the library daily, very polite, but it was obvious that he was struggling. We sent out some appeals to our library community and were able to get him some clean clothes, some storage for his possessions. He had been living sleeping at different spots, just on the outskirts of Prescott. We had some donations of work boots for him. We got him day work with the local moving service here in town, some food vouchers, some bag lunches for his workday, got himself back on his feet, and he's in Ottawa now working full-time in construction. He again paid it forward, came back, did some odd jobs for us in the library, built our new puppet theater and some things like that. So I think when I share those examples with you, I think it divides our library into two things. That part of society that is on the fringe, that needs assistance and really doesn't have anywhere to go. I agree with the river route, and we've had some really wonderful experiences with that. But I think in a place like Prescott, if you don't drive, it's very hard to access places like Service Canada. I'm not sure if each of you have had the opportunity to read the information, but that the MTO and Service Ontario and small communities are going to start closing the offices and moving them to kiosks inside Staples stores. So that would have a huge impact on our town. I think people look at libraries as a cool space, a warm space, computer access, electricity to charge their phones. They use our washroom facilities, not only to use the washroom, but to clean themselves up. And every library around us, whether it's a small city or a small town, excuse me, or a large city, are experiencing the same. So the second thing that I'm asking for is an increase to our programming budget, so that I think this rise that we've had in new library members will eventually plateau. So how do we keep them here and keep them coming into the libraries is we need to increase our programming. So that's sort of all I have.
Thank you, Anne. I'm just going to open it up to any questions. Any questions for Ms. Gillard?
Mayor Shankar, Anne, you're doing a great job with you and your staff. Big turnaround in Prescott at your leadership. Seeing a lot of great changes, so keep it up.
Thank you. I'm very, very lucky to have a good team here, and we're very lucky. So thank you.
Councillor Kirkby?
Yes, through you, Mayor Shankar. Anne, I did take time to read through your stuff here. Though I have a couple questions, and of course I always have a couple questions, I guess. The craft, so I know there's a membership fee, which is different from out of town to town residents, right? And you want to go back to 40 craft kits a month. Do you have to be a member to receive one of them craft kits? And do you have to be? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Justin. You don't have to be a member to get the craft kits, but there is no charge to be a member of the library if you live in the town of Prescott or if you own property in the town of Prescott. We do have a significant amount of outside memberships, and we did increase our membership fee this year. I just want to look at the number. Sorry, there is a number of how many. Sorry, so this year we had revenue from out of town memberships at $1,125, and none of them blinked at the increase. I'm sure we could probably go up another small increase of $5 to $10, and it would still be acceptable.
Okay. And then it's noted that your after-hour programs, they're paid users, but there's still a cost associated with the staff. So does that mean we're not covering, the library's not covering the total costs of the staff and users?
There's some groups that are here in the library where the members, like in the watercolor painting classes or calligraphy, they're paying to take those classes, and we are incurring the cost of staff. now I have to admit that I took a few of the classes this past year and in the fall again. And so I was here for the class and I didn't charge anything for my time here. If I'm enjoying the class and paying out of my own, pocket to take it, we didn't have to staff anybody else. But those programs are running from 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. Some of them, depending on the age group, from 6 to 8 p.m. Sorry.
And so would the people that are running these programs, would they be making a profit from the program they're offering?
Not really. Not really. The first kick at the can, we had a woman do abstract art journaling, and I think she really undersold the class. I took it and for the cost of the class, what we were given and then the supplies we were allowed was a huge, I think, difference. I would say any profit they're making would be well under $100. And most of the programming that had an expense to it for the person taking it lasted 5 to 8 weeks.
The last one, Ann. So when I went on the town website, I saw that you're open for 42 hours. You're saying you're open 51.
We are. We need some updating to our information on the town website. Unfortunately, it's not up to date. And we are working on that to get that to Sam to update it for us.
And where would that compare to other community libraries, say Augusta, Brockville, or Gann?
Brockville is off 2 days a week, so they're actually working less days than we are. Edwardsburg and Augusta are kind of hard to compare to us due to the two smaller satellite libraries. And so they're each open a combination of probably 3 to 4 hours every other day. So some in Cardinal, some in Spencerville. But both libraries have days within the week multiple days in which they're shuttered. The closest to our area that is the same is Gann, and they work 5 days a week, but their structure is closest to ours. They have a librarian with the same experience. She also has a master's, and I'll be completing mine by the end of 2024. She has 3 active staff, which we do as well. But she also has 2 on-call people. So if someone's sick, there's someone there to cover it. Whereas, unfortunately, we incurred a lot of salary fluctuation this year for that reason.
So we're currently at 51 hours a week. The majority of that is staffed by 2 members. And we'd be adding 10 to 12 hours on top of what's currently staffed per week to them hours, correct?
Yes. So right now I'm supposed to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I often work much, much more than that. I take the laptop home every night. Linda works, she only has Thursdays off. She works a shorter day on Wednesdays and on Friday. And Kelly works every day, Monday through Friday, 4 hours a day. Kelly and I currently are sharing Saturdays. So when we work the 4 hours on Saturday, we take that time out of our regular hours during the week. So Kelly is alone here she's alone every evening from 6 until 7. Linda leaves at 6. So I would really like to have another person working evenings.
Okay. Last but not least, I think honestly the library, I'm not a big user of the library, but I've been in several times. It looks great. And it's nice to see a lot of things happening. My only question or concern is sometimes we're maybe overlapping services that are offered in other places and we're offering them here and possibly both places are being underused for the funds that are being provided. That's my only watch out on that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think the library is great. I think, you have Connect Youth there, right? Doing some stuff. But we also have the CSC, I believe, in town that does a lot of that stuff also, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure if you had a chance to read the article from the Walrus, but I think the changes that we're seeing here and the need that we're seeing in our community is the same right across North America. And I know that we have other services in town, and we definitely direct people to those. But we see a lot of people here that have no vehicle, often no home, not access to running water, to working toilets. And it seems crazy in our town that we would have that, but we see it, and we see it very prevalent here in the library. I guess bottom line, the best things about libraries are that it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account or your wallet or what color you are, or whether you're a man or a woman, or whether you own your house or rent it or you don't have one. Everybody gets the exact same service. So we have different people that come into our library that require something different, but libraries are definitely shouldering a lot of the burden of parts of society that are struggling. And I don't want to use burden in a bad way. I think we're filling we're filling a need that is needed in our community, and we're very happy to do that to help people. But unfortunately, people, I think safety's sake, we need more than one person working at certain times of the week. Especially in the evenings and Saturdays. I didn't say that. Saturdays we work alone too. So that's really, to me, the biggest ask is that we get the money to hire one more person for approximately 10 hours a week.
Thanks, Anne. Thank you.
You're welcome. I urge all of you to drop in and see the library. Please come in and check it out if you haven't been in. There's a lot of great things going on.
Thank you. And I'm just going to check any other questions. Councilor Burton.
Thank you. Great job, Anne, on your presentation. I think it's important to explain some of the big changes that you have in your budget. So let's look at meeting expenses from 400 to 2,500.
So I've put clarification in that. I'd like to change that category to adult programming instead of meeting expenses. So we add a couple events, I guess I'll call them here, that do incur us some costs. We have a program called Borrow a Patron, Not a Book. So they decorate our library with their talent for approximately 6 weeks. And then we hold sort of a little afternoon session where they come and talk about it. So we do serve tea and coffee and lots of times squares or cookies that are donated, usually by people on the library board. But I would like to start adding more programming that would sort of fit in that. And I'll use the example of tech services. We had a gentleman come in and help people who had a new phone to set up their tablet, to move their pictures from their phone to their computer. So sort of events like that.
Okay, and the next one is the other expenses, water, Kleenex. You have 250 to 1,500.
So there I'm looking more at things. We do have Lake Culligan water here. I would be interested in pricing out if we could get a water refill station, but the downfall here is that we only have water accessible in the bathrooms. And in the little sort of staff kitchen area, it's just a little bar sink. So it's not very user-friendly for that. But I would definitely be interested in trying to find a better workaround for that. We also do some of the cleaning in the library ourselves. So disinfecting the children's room, like after story time. And we make sure that the carpet is cleaned in the kids' room every day, wiping down the computers that people are using. So some of those costs go towards those things.
Okay, last but not least, The computer supplies and maintenance, 2,000, and then you're asking for 6,000.
So this year we joined, or in 2023, excuse me, we took some money out of our reserves. We bought all new computers, all new programs, and we joined the town's network, which we didn't belong before. So we joined OnServe Services. And what I'm not sure if this is my own inexperience maybe for this, but what I wasn't aware of until after we accepted the bid from OnServe is that they would charge us $458 a month towards services. So we no longer are eligible to apply for an internet reimbursement through the government, but we can offset the cost of OnServe because we're no longer having to pay Cogeco for telephone or for internet services. So if we sort of wiggle those numbers around, and Matthew was helping us with that, since that we feel was an incurred cost that we weren't expecting on a yearly basis, we can offset it through different things to where it's costing, Matthew might correct me here, but I want to say we got it down to about 2,000 a year by offsetting other things to it. I think he used the difference in the town's insurance policy that the library is no longer considered a single entity, and then the difference with Cogeco. So that's a static cost, unfortunately, that we cannot budget away.
Okay, and I got a question from Deputy Mayor Lockett.
Hi, Ann. I'm wondering if you have ever approached the high school for a co-op student for 4 hours between Monday and Friday. That might free up someone that you already have in there. I don't know what they're available, but I know that they're in a lot of different businesses.
They are. We definitely have had students filling their volunteer hours here, and we've got a waiting list right now. I think of about another 11 kids that are hoping to get in with us. I would have no problem supplementing our time, like our gap, I guess, with that. But I don't know if they'd be able to work alone. And my concern, honestly, is safety of people working alone.
Well, I don't think they'd be alone. If you already are there 9 to 5, they would come in the daytime, like when school's from 8 to 2:30 or something like that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it would be worth looking into.
Okay, just a suggestion.
Yeah, that is not typically a time where we need coverage. But I don't think it's a bad idea on a whole. I think it's certainly worth researching.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell?
And have you found any days or mornings or afternoons where it's just less usership that you would perhaps be able to not be open then? Or is it pretty standard across the board?
Pretty standard across the board. I'm just gathering all the numbers for our 2023 annual report that goes to the ministry. Normally they just have us take 2 weeks of stats, but this year I did it for the whole month of November, and I'm kind of glad I did because it was eye-opening. So in November, 950 people attended the library, 811 titles were borrowed, 125 people were here to use the computers. 13.8 hours of computer assistance was given. So that's filling out government documents, resume help, grant programs for low income to get assistance in paying a gas bill, a hydro bill. 23 people used our Wi-Fi that weren't members of the library. 48 people who were using our computers were not members. 134 man hours were dedicated to processing interlibrary loans, which that I have to admit shocked me. I wouldn't have thought it was that much. But we got 141 people in the door just to attend our programs. So I think those numbers are all good. But I think you know, we have to get creative about getting more people into the library.
Mhm.
And
I
I think
just-
that's where the programming's gonna help.
I just wondered if like on a Monday morning, you don't see anybody till noon or something, but it sounds like it's pretty, people are in at all times of day and night.
Yeah, I haven't noticed that so much lately. Definitely maybe during the summer, during the weeks, but I find, or during the week, excuse me, I find we get a lot more kids in the summer and in the spring. Once it starts to stay light a bit later, most parents let their kids come to the library like on their own. So they're riding their bikes, or whereas we did have a bit of dip in that kind of attendance once it was dark earlier at night.
All right, great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Anne. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, everyone, for the time. I appreciate it.
Feel better.
Okay, thanks. Take care.
Thanks. Matthews, you got more?
So next we'll move on to environmental services. So it's storm sewers, waste collection, waste disposal, and waste diversion. So for storm sewers, pretty much exactly where we should be. The majority of this is a transfer to reserves, as well as the yearly cleaning of storm sewers. Waste collection, fairly overspent in 2023. That was mostly due to a fuel surcharge that was imposed by Waste Management. So Limerick picks up the garbage. It's dropped off at Waste Management. Waste Management charges by the ton, and then in 2023 they started charging a fuel surcharge on that tonnage that's dropped off. So what we did is we applied a 3% increase on top of the projection, and then backed down a couple of charges because they were one time. And so that's what came to the 2024 budget of 132. Waste disposal, pretty much right on budget where we expected it to be. And so we added 3% to the increase on disposal. And then waste diversion, again, pretty much where we expected it to be. So added 3% on the current projection. So all told, over those four areas, it's up 4.6%. Any questions before I move on?
Nelson?
Planning and economic development. So planning, the vast majority of this budget covers both our planning service expertise from WSP, as well as any of the costs we incur for peer reviews of site plans, that sort of thing. So when a developer comes in as part of site plan control, they submit to their grading and drainage, their servicing, all of the major engineering type studies, and we have all of those peer reviewed, and that is covered by that budget. And then ECDEV and tourism, seeing a small increase year over year for that, mostly just re-identifying. There's some, we're expecting Digital Main Street to potentially not continue after March, so we haven't heard on that yet, and we will be speaking to that in a couple of minutes. But as well as just the increase in resale merchandise that we have is included in the budget now as well. So, but that would be offset by revenue. Any questions before I move through that? Okay. Next, we have water and wastewater collection. Wastewater collection, wastewater treatment, and water distribution. So our water budget is made up of two main components. Water treatment is where we pull it in from the St. Lawrence River, treat the water, and then send it to the distribution system. The distribution system starts after the treatment plant and runs throughout town and includes the water tower that's being replaced. So water revenues are required to cover the cost of operating and replacement, as well as without using property taxes to subsidize. Any surplus is placed into a reserve to support capital projects for water. So as we can see, we are assuming a 5% increase in water and wastewater rates at July 1st. Even with that, we still need to pull 60,000 from reserve to bridge the gap between expenses and revenue. So even with a 5% increase, we're not where we need to be in terms of rates. On the water distribution side, we would still be able to contribute 156,000 to the reserve for replacement. That being said, when we're doing street projects every 2 and 3 years, we need closer to about $500,000 a year to be putting into reserve to be able to support those projects. When we talk about wastewater, so we have wastewater collection that runs from each property, makes its way down to Johnstown to the wastewater treatment plant. And that's the second part where it actually treats the effluent and then returns it back to the St. Lawrence River. Wastewater revenues are required to cover the cost of the operation as well as replacement of the wastewater system, and any surpluses are pulled from, are put into a reserve. So here we can see that, even with a 5%, we're not producing a very large contribution to reserve for the wastewater treatment plant. It's mostly due to the interest that's generating by that. And so, and then on the wastewater collection side, producing 183,000 to be able to put into a reserve contribution. So again, not numbers that are sufficient enough to undertake the projects that we have on the list going forward. And I think it's a good point when we take a look at something like Central and Henry. Those pipes are somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 years old. There's about 8 streets in that area that are all of that vintage and age. And so breaks will happen. While we can replace them, that's great. But when we get to a problem where we occurred on Henry Street back in 2017, where the sanitary sewer collapsed and we couldn't fix it because it just kept on collapsing the more that we exposed, then you're going to get into emergency repairs. So again, those contributions to reserves and being able to build up the reserves are key to be able to support the overall program. So when we take a look at where we are so far, so this is the end of the expense budget. We're up 868,000 or 8.2% from 23 to 24. But that being said, there's 509,000 in new revenue that will help offset that 868. That leaves better part of 360,000 in terms of an increase, which equates to 6% increase. That doesn't include the 1% that we would add for infrastructure reserve contribution. So at this moment, we're facing a 7% increase, and there's also the assumption of 5% increase July 1st for water and wastewater rates. So certainly we continue wanting to see some improvements on the budget for 2024 from St. Lawrence Lodge. That hasn't been forthcoming to date, and we will be sending some additional questions along as to what the mitigation measures are.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Questions for Mr. Armstrong about our budget? Councillor Kirkby?
More of a comment through you, Mayor Shankar. It's these kind of numbers that where the cost is going up. That makes me think we really need to be smart on our other budgets, and the money that is flowing out. We need to be conscious about that, because I can only imagine what an emergency repair is compared to a planned repair, right? So just seeing these numbers, for anybody watching, right? The 1% increase in property tax equals 60,000, correct, Matthew? So we have a long ways to go on our current budget.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else?
At our next meeting, we will be going through revenue, taxation, prioritization, project list, and with that, I'm expecting that you will want to direct staff to take another sober second look at the budget and see how we can address that increase that we're looking at. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That was just for information, so there's no motion there. 13 is resolutions. There are no items under 13. 14 is bylaws. 14.1 is a bylaw to amend the bylaw enforcement officer appointment bylaw. Okay. The recommendation reads that bylaw 05-2024 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 49-2023 a bylaw to appoint municipal bylaw enforcement officers for the corporation of the town of Prescott be read, passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Rutten, Councillor Kirkby. Do we need any discussion on this? We're appointing a new bylaw officer. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, good, carried. Thank you. Item 15 is new business. We have, Councillor Young, you have continued fighting for digital Main Street program.
Thank you, Mayor Schneider. Whereas the Provincial Digital Main Street Program funding, should I read this?
You can read it again, or you can discuss why you brought it to the last.
So whereas the Provincial Digital Main Street Program funding is scheduled to end March 31st, 2024. And whereas the Digital Main Street Program is a provincially funded program focusing on assisting small businesses with the adoption of technology. And whereas the Digital Main Street Program has assisted 85 businesses in Prescott, 129 in South Granville, which includes Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal and Township of Augusta. A total of 59 digital transformation grants have been distributed, including 40 to Prescott businesses, representing a direct investment of $100,000 into Prescott businesses and $147,500 across South Granville. This program has specifically benefited South Granville municipalities, including the town of Prescott, by providing assistance with both one-on-one support and webinars for grant application, website setup, e-commerce setup, social media page creation, social media analysis and content creation. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the town of Prescott support the continuation of funding for this successful and important program, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Premier Doug Ford, MPP Steve Clark, the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal, Township of Augusta, and all other municipalities in Leeds and Granville. So I can't say enough about how important that was during COVID. It helped so many of our businesses stay in business. And they're still benefiting from it. They're still attending webinars. They're still getting visits from our from Taylor. And I'd love to see it continue and hope that we can get some interest from the other townships to also hop on board, and that's it.
Good. Does she need a mover and a seconder?
That's the three, Mayor Schenker, Councillor Young wanted to move it, and then a seconder.
Yes, would you like to move it? Seconded by Councilor Kirkby. Is there a need for discussion? I think you read it all. All right, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you for bringing that forward. All right, 16 is notices of motion, which there are none. There are no proclamations tonight. And is there any media online? No. So we're going to move into a closed session. The recommended motion. Pardon?
Veronica's here.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Veronica, sorry. Do you have a question? Sorry.
Just two things quickly.
Yep.
Who was the artist that did the work for the water tower?
Kelly Panacci. Kelly, just like the sound, Panacci, Panacci. And she's the same artist who produced our tourism map.
Oh, okay.
And
Councillor Young, could you repeat the numbers again for the CIP grant? You said there were 6 applicants and a total of.
Oh, yep.
Couldn't keep up.
Okay, no, I've got it on here.
Should be on the agenda.
I think
I think it's on the package from.
The package, yeah.
Oh, I've got it here. So the total in grants, $130,950, and in loans, $415,000. And Dana can.
Yeah. That's all I needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Veronica. Sorry about that. So I have a motion that reads that council move into closed session at 8:40 to discuss matters pertaining to approval of closed session minutes, a purchase and sale matter, And that the CAO, treasurer, clerk, economic development officer, and deputy clerk remain in the rooms for that. Caroline Regito and Chris Morrison of the United Counties will remain in the room for item 19.2. Mover and seconder. Moved by Counselor Campbell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lockett. All in favor? Thank you. Carried.